We're continuing with the Alona Mara obsession. She started this whole conversation by putting up a reel of her eating her breakfast at the Olympics, where she had 4 different types of carbs.
I think there's some misconceptions around what athletes eat. We eat a lot of carbs. I got 3 forms of carbs on my plate right now. A bread roll, a croissant, a crepe. Fuel up. Don't stay hungry.
Alona stands for body acceptance within sports. People often bully her for the way that she looks, yet she is an Olympic athlete. She is what an athlete looks like, and she also knows how an athlete eats. And the fitness industry has really muddied the water with this. I've been doing sports since I was a child, but I've only been within the fitness industry for the last 8 years. And I've seen so many nutrition trends come and go. In fact, when I started it was low carb, and we seem to be back to low carb again with the rise of the carnivore diet and people saying that bread and pasta and processed food is really bad for you. But if you care about sports performance, then you need to be eating carbohydrates. And WOD Science recently posted a study that proves this. Especially if you're doing something like CrossFit, where you burn through glycogen stores really quickly, you do need to eat some form of carbohydrates. Glycogen depletion happens very quickly, so we need to have those stores within our muscles. The body can also use fats as an energy source, but it doesn't do that until you get to a really long workout. So if you're doing something high intensity, you won't be able to use fats as an energy source like that. Carbs are by far the more efficient energy source. And if you look at the other Olympians, they are also eating carbohydrates, obviously, because they care about their performance. This guy is an Olympic rower, and it looks like he's having 3 breakfasts, which is fantastic. Eating like a hobbit and having second breakfast is absolute goals. And he's also eating pizza and Ben and Jerry's. Now, I'm not sure what distance he rows. Rowing uses a lot of energy. I actually used to do gig rowing. I say that a lot about every single sport because I've done most sports, but it was very exhausting. And different levels of athletes need different amounts of carbohydrates and different amounts of fuels like proteins and fats. But regardless of what sport they're doing, all athletes do need carbs, and the ones that know what they're doing are eating carbohydrates. This athlete, Kimberly, is a kayaker, and in her meals throughout the day while she's at the Olympics, she is eating carbs at different times and different amounts. So she's having a high carb meal, a medium carb meal, and a low carb meal. And that's because of her training and how she's refueling her glycogen stores based on how she's training or competing. And then this athlete is a tennis player, and as you can see, she's having quite a lot of carbs in her breakfast. She's having a big salad for lunch, which, spoiler alert, is carbs. There are carbs in lettuce. I know a lot of people don't consider lettuce a carb, but when I was really deep in my eating disorder and tried to restrict all carbohydrates out of my diet because I was an absolute lemon, I worked out that there were carbs in lettuce and carbs in vegetables, so I stopped eating vegetables, which is ridiculous. She's also got some tortilla chips mixed in there, which are a processed carbohydrate, and the purpose of processed carbohydrates for many athletes is they are fast digesting. They'll give you quick energy, and then you've got other stuff like maybe oats that would give you a slower release energy, and they're used for a purpose. They're used like fuel. And again, for me, having done sports all of my life, this was just common knowledge to me. Yes, I got led down a weird path for a while where I obsessed over diet culture and got really deep into an eating disorder and restricting all of the things out of my diet. It's because mentally I was not doing okay. And I wasn't trying to be good at a sport, I was just trying to be thin. And that's why, in many ways, CrossFit really helped me, because every single time I got sick again, it reminded me how bad that was for me because I was performing badly. Because every time I restricted carbohydrates or reduced my calories to a ridiculous level, I would struggle to perform. And one of the biggest things in my healing journey was actually following Matt Fraser and realising that he eats cinnamon buns and pancakes and processed carbohydrates back when he was in his peak competing at the CrossFit Games. And obviously we're completely different people. He is literally the champion and I was just a regular CrossFitter at the gym. But it helped me recognise that if you want to perform in a sport and if you want to do well, then you do need carbohydrates in your diet in some shape or form. The quantity for everybody is different. A CrossFitter isn't going to need the same amount as an Olympic swimmer or somebody that does Ironmans, but they still need carbs. And a couple of years ago I had an obsession with road cycling, and something that happens in road cycling if you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough glycogen stores, is you start bonking, which sounds like a really kind of rude word in English, but it means to basically nearly pass out, to your energy gets really depleted and you go all kind of woozy. And the way I had to fix that was to have carbohydrate drinks. So you have powdered, basically basically powdered glucose in a shake that you drink while you're cycling so that you prevent that from happening. And whilst I was road cycling and when I was going out, I was doing like 60 Ks, which isn't a lot if you compare it to some road cyclists that are doing like 120 K a day. I had to eat a lot more and I could barely keep weight on. Like, I kept losing weight unintentionally for the first time in my life. And on top of that, I was also doing CrossFit, which again was another stage in my life that helped me realise that carbs are actually important. No matter how much people want you to believe that carbs are bad, if you want to be an athlete and if you want to perform well in a sport or even just get better at a sport, and even if you're a regular person, and yes, a regular person in a larger body, you need carbs to perform best in your workouts. Just because you're in a bigger body, it doesn't mean that you should restrict them. And by saying eat carbs, I'm not saying go and have a million donuts, which I can already read my comments from here, that is what they're going to say, because they like to go to the extreme. I'm hoping that by watching this and seeing some of these clips of like actual athletes eating processed carbohydrates, somebody out there that maybe struggles with an eating disorder like I have will realise that carbs are actually an important part of our diet. And maybe I can pull you slightly further away from that diet culture space. Now obviously the One Science post had a fair amount of controversy because people don't like to hear that their diet is not optimal for performance, especially as the carnivore diet seems to be really deeply embedded in CrossFit nowadays. And they did mention the carnivore diet, they definitely do restrict carbs. Some carnivores do eat fruit, and then others, I've heard of this like lion diet, which is essentially just meat and salt, which absolutely blows my mind. Anyway, these comments kind of came up on the One Science post. The whole cult of being a carnivore fascinates me quite a lot because I no longer diet and I wonder how people can believe this kind of stuff, and because they believe it's like the optimal diet for human health despite all of the studies saying completely different things. If you'd like to hear more about my opinion on the carnivore diet, then watch this video next. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!